Well, welcome this morning. I'm Jonathan Rutz. Like you said, Thin Air is my radio broadcast alter ego. The title is Living God's Way Without Knowing Which Way You're Going, and I'm going to really try to illustrate this with 3 points throughout my presentation. And as I go through, I'm going to accompany it with my favorite verse, which is 1 Peter 5:6-7, and I'm going to show you how that verse and its interpretation has changed from the first time I heard it up until now. I'm pretty much the least qualified person on this panel right now to be speaking to you about broadcast journalism. It wasn't something I really came with a mind to do to Biola, but I'm hoping this presentation is going to give you a thought and that you'll walk away with something to think about. And my goal is to touch you on a personal level and not necessarily with a journalistic standpoint, but from my own story. So if this is going to move, just deciding not to. We'll go again and see if it works. The verse is 1 Peter 5:6-7. Humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your cares on him, for he cares for you. And the first time I heard this was in 3rd grade, and I had a nightmare. And naturally, I called for my mother. And my father, hearing me in distress, also came along, and they showed me this verse. And the first time I heard it, what I focused on was cast all your cares on him, for he cares for you. And I realized I didn't have to be scared, and the Lord was with me. And that's kind of what carried me all the way up until about my freshman year of college. Point number 1, getting out of our comfort zone is necessary for growth. I grew up in the biggest comfort zone and the best comfort zone in the world, Lake Arrowhead. And if you want to dispute that, we can have a conversation later. And I literally have a series of questions. And by the end of it, I say, what's the greatest place to live in? And it's Lake Arrowhead. And so you can ask me about that later on if you want. My parents moved there when I was 2 years old, and they're here today, Steve and Diane, and my sister Hannah. And my dog Jack is not here. He will watch the YouTube video later on. I graduated from a very small school, and by small I mean a class of 9. That's our junior high graduation picture. That's just the guys. But 3 of the people I went to school with are here today, Gary, Willie, and Allison, and we've been together since preschool. So we've known each other for a very long time, and Allison and I have actually been in school together for 20 years. She graduated on time last semester, and I was at the tax firm Deloitte, and I work a valet job, so you can guess what our interaction is there. But class of 9, 130 kids, K through 12, and so that means that you spend a lot of time together, and you're all pretty much in the same class. So your group, there's no like homeroom, and you split up. You know, our class is going to history now. So you spend pretty much 8 hours a day, and then on top of that, you have practice, and then you hang out with each other. So we are very close, and there was a group of us you can see in the upper right-hand corner, and Kyle and Gary are a couple of guys here, and we're all very different. Gary just graduated with a math degree from Berkeley. Willie is training to be a firefighter right now, very outdoorsy, and he's a little crazy. Kyle is in the Navy, working and setting up literally the internet on brand new ships. And then Christian and his brother Elijah are at an art school, and I was really more of a sports guy. And the environment that it fostered at the school there was we had to get past what I call our insecurities and our imperfections, and get past and actually get to know somebody for real. And that's what that small school fostered. And I really enjoyed it there. And I had no desire to leave a big family environment that school had fostered. But I came to Biola, and basketball was a big factor in that. Ever since I could start playing basketball, I pretty much told people I was going to go play in the NBA. And I was very good at high school basketball. And this is going to sound like bragging, but in like 3 minutes, you're going to understand why it's not that big of a deal. I was the only male player to MVP twice in basketball. I was 2-time there, and then I had 7.5 blocks a game my senior year, which was 8th in the nation. So however many millions of high school basketball players there are, I was 8th in the nation at the time. But I only got 1 letter from Multnomah University up in Oregon because our division was so low, nobody really cared because we weren't playing that high of competition. And I was the only basketball player to go play collegiate basketball, and I got the opportunity to redshirt at Biola. which means I'm on the team. In all respects, it's just I don't play in the games, and there were about 4 of us, and that saves a year of your eligibility. So Coach Holmquist said, yeah, you can come redshirt for us. And I got to Biola and quickly realized I was really bad at basketball compared to most people. I was pretty much the 16th guy on a roster of 17. That freshman year, I really struggled. I didn't make friends like I thought I would. I would shake somebody's hand and think to myself, I'm only going to get to know you every 2 hours out of a week, and that's not friendship to me, because my friendship has been spending 8 hours with these people, and I have this close, really close group of friends that I'm so personal with. So I really struggled, and homesickness hit me hard, even though it's only like an hour and a half away from here. And I remember calling my dad. Professor Wamagata's class was World Civilization on a Friday morning at 7:30, which is like the worst idea ever. But I was in the parking lot and I called my dad in tears, and I was like, Dad, I want to come home. This is not fun. I can go to Cal State San Bernardino. I can commute up and down. It won't be a big deal. And I could tell that really hurt him. And not that it hurt him. I was making that decision or asking for that decision, that he was hurting because of my pain. But he said, no, son, you got to stay there because that's necessary for growth. And I had no idea what that meant at the time. All I knew was this is not a fun time for me at Biola. So that takes me to the next step, right, when I got to college. And the point I focused on in this verse was humble and humility. And it really, because I got knocked down a peg, I went from the greatest comfort zone ever to now really just hating my time at Biola. And I had to focus on the humility aspect of, like, you're really not as good as you thought you are. You're really not all that you're cracked up to be. And that changed the meaning for that. So point number 2, our plans are not always God's plans. The beginning of my sophomore year started out with the season 2 days before my sophomore season started. I got called into Coach Holmquist's office, and I got told, he said, and this is kind of a joke between everybody, and that's why they're all smiling, but he told me I wasn't big enough or skilled enough for the college game, and I was like, so everything required to play basketball? But he said, you're a good locker room guy, and I was like, well, then let me be that. I'm fine with that. Just give me a jersey, let me be a part of this team. I'm down for that. And it wasn't because I loved basketball, and I've started to realize that it's because I panicked, because I was like, that's my only identity. I'm a basketball player. You know, what am I supposed to do at this point? But he cut me, and I had to go down, and I had to go in front of all of these guys in my locker room, slide my nameplate off the locker, and I took an hour and a half shower. And I was just thinking, I was like, this is embarrassing. Like, this is what I came here to do, and this is what I told everybody I was going to do, and now I'm done. And I had to choose a major right after that. I was undeclared, and my dad was giving me ideas of what I had thought of in the past, and it was teacher, lawyer, all these writer, and so I looked at journalism, and then there was broadcast journalism. I was like, well, I could do radio, and I could kind of talk sports, and so that's why I chose broadcast journalism right there, like for no other reason I could talk sports. So I was in a spot really that I was done with basketball for the first time in 18 years, and now I'm in a degree I have no knowledge of or gave no thought to, and I was really just feeling like I was lost. And to make matters worse, I had to figure out a living situation, and my current roommate was a basketball player, and he wasn't really like pushing me anywhere negative, but he wasn't pushing me forward, and I was really feeling lost, and I wanted to get past that superficial feeling of just of what Christianity was. I really wanted to dig into that, so I ended up spending a lot of time with a guy next door, and his name was Lathan Kraft, and he was rooming with Rollin Gordon, and they were best friends with Jimmy Gallarda, and so they were always in there, and I spent about a month there, and I realized, wow, these are great guys to hang around, and these are guys that truly love the Lord. And so I was talking to my dad, and he said, I think you should try to move in with those guys. And so I said, okay. So I hung up, and I walked down the hall, and they were all talking about rooming. Like, I got there, and they were talking about what they were going to do next year. And it got quiet, and Rollin goes, Rutz, what are you going to do next semester? And I said, well, I was kind of hoping to live with you guys, honestly. And they said, actually, that works. That you could be our 4th guy. And that decision right there changed my life. We moved in to a house my junior year, and I can honestly tell you guys, like, I came home the summer after that, and people who know me my whole life looked at me and said, there's something different about you. And that's because I genuinely had a group of guys who constantly pushed me towards my faith, and that was something I had never completely had before. And right after that, I began calling games on for Biola basketball as a play-by-play, and then I had my own radio show for a couple years, and things were finally starting to feel like college. I was like, okay, this is what I wanted it to be, and I saw this as God's plan. Like this is nothing of my doing. Like I just walked in a room and hoped to live with some guys, and they changed my life. It was nothing I did. So that brings us to point number 3, and that's living out God's will without the future planned out. And that takes me right up to this whole semester. I'm living on my own for the first time. I'm here a semester late, and I had no plans to do that, and it's not because I transferred here or I had problems with eligibility, anything like that. It's because I failed some classes, and now I'm having to reap the benefits of that, or the consequences. It's not necessarily a benefit. Who knows? I'm here now, so it's a benefit. And it's a scary time, and no guy wants to admit that becoming a man and doing the things you're supposed to is scary, but it has been a hard time for me, but I'm learning so much from it. And one of the hardest decisions I came to was I don't think I'm going to pursue broadcast journalism, and that's not, like Kara said, that's not wrong, just being aware of that. And I've had plenty of classes and learned from plenty of people of like, this is really not the career I want to pursue, but I've learned so much from it. It's taught me how to understand and reach people. That's the whole point of broadcasting, is to reach as many people as you can with your message. It's taught me how to tell stories as an art form. I had a video that played at Midnight Madness in front of like 2,000 people, and that's something I never thought would have happened. That only happened because I got cut from basketball and still wanted to be involved and things like that. And broadcast journalism has given me people that I never thought would impact my life the way they have. From Biola, I've gained 2 spiritual relationships with brothers that genuinely care for who I am, and that's Jonathan Burkhart and Roland Gordon, and they're both here today. These are guys who desire to seek me out almost daily and be in my ear and constantly ask me. They want to learn what I'm thinking and push me, but by allowing me to pursue things rather than just talking at me. And they really do listen for that and care about my life and are a daily factor in that. And that leads me to what this verse means to me today, and it's the whole verse. It's humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your cares on him, for he cares for you. And the word humble changed for me. I realized that humility under God means listening to God. And that's not something I had ever done up to this point, and it's because of those people. I'm now understanding what it means to pursue the Lord's will, and that's a very cliche sentence at a Christian school. But I finally understand that, and it's not because of anything I've done. And I want you guys to know that this is, whatever you see me as today, it's not because of me. It's because God had all of these plans for me. He planned out my friends and my family who are a foundation for me, and I can always lean on them. He brought me to this college out of the blue, and he allowed me to get cut and take away my identity of something that was not my own. He allowed me to be in this major and understand the people around me. And in general, he gave me all these people that are in this room today. And I think all of this was to bring God's broken son closer to him.